Hey everyone, it's John Barrett with Level Up Your Leadership, where I'm going to give you visual lessons to help you get better as a leader so you can be more effective. Today I want to talk about the mission drift effect. This is going to help you to stay on track when things seem to get off course. I don't know if you've experienced this as a leader, but many times as we're going after the vision, we're going after the goal, we're going after the project, whatever it is, we've got our eyes on the mission, our eyes on the prize. But as you know and I know, things tend to drift. Right? We've got this goal in mind, and here we are with our team, and we're trying to do everything we can to keep our eyes on the vision. But what happens over time is we begin to drift. We just begin to kind of veer off, and we miss what it is we're going after. And if we're not careful, before long, we can really kind of get out of whack over here, where we're totally off base, we're totally off target. And this happens every time in any project. It's almost like gravity just pulls us away from the mission, from the vision. Now, that's not a negative statement. That's just a reality that when you're going after whatever it is that you want to accomplish, I guarantee you something is going to be pulling you away. There is a tide that just pulls us away of distractions, a tide of shiny objects where we see other things along the journey and we say, oh, that looks good over there. Or just simply we begin to cut corners. We begin to get lazy. We begin to, in the name of being more efficient, we tend to kind of put our quality down and we cut corners. And before we know it, we're getting off base from where we started. Now, years ago, my family, we were down in Florida having a good time. My brother-in-law and I went out into the ocean to go float on the waves. We had some donuts out there that we were hanging out on, and our family was back on the shore. And I'll never forget, we were there and we were talking forever, just having a good time. And probably, 30, 40 minutes later, we looked back to go see where everybody was, and we thought, they're gone. They left us. How dare our family? They packed up. There was nobody on the shore there, and our family wasn't there at all. And we were talking, and we said, well, why would they leave? What's going on? And then we began to realize, wait a minute, those buildings don't look like ours. Where are we? And we realized that we weren't anywhere near where our place was. And so we got back to the shore, and we started walking back down to where we were. And guess what? Our family was still there. They didn't drift. They were right where they were, but we had drifted because of the tide, because of the current that pulled us out, and we didn't even know it. That's the scary thing about the mission drift effect, is you don't even know it, but you're veering off course. And if you're not careful, then you're going to miss the target. As a leader, you've got to make sure that your team, that everybody, that not only you, but your entire team that you're leading over here, that they have got their eyes on the vision, the eyes on the mission of what we're trying to accomplish, and that you don't drift off. I was listening to a statistic the other day, and did you know that if a plane takes off from LA going to JFK, if they're just 1 degree off course, right? You're going and you don't even realize it, but before you know it, you begin to veer off. And by the time they got to where JFK was, they would be in the ocean. I mean, miles and miles away from their destination, just 1 degree off. As a leader, you've got to keep your eyes on the vision. You've got to get your team to keep their eyes on the vision, because the moment you take your eyes off the vision and you get distracted by something over here, you begin to look down at your team and say, okay, let me get involved in your work, and you start getting into the weeds. The moment you take your eyes off the vision, before you know it, all of a sudden, now things are getting off course. And when you look back, you can find yourself in these gaps, this gap leadership. In fact, this is what we say about great leaders. Great leaders, they focus on the gaps, and they close the gaps. That's what they do. That's what the most important thing is that you as a leader, you've got to make sure that you are keeping an eye on the gap. I promise you, no matter what you're doing, it is going to veer over time. Again, that's not a negative statement. That's just to say that things get off course. People tend to get distracted. We lose motivation. We lose drive. We get caught up on the wrong things. We spend all kinds of times of our time in things that don't really align to the vision of what we're trying to accomplish. So you as a leader, you as a team, as you look at this video and as you think about this concept, where might you be drifting off? Where might you be spending a whole lot more time over here and you're really busy getting things done, but it's not in line with the vision. It's not getting you closer to the goal. See, there's 3 steps that I want to talk about that you've got to do. The first one is you've got to see it. You've got to see where the gaps are. Everyone, you've got to keep your eyes on where in our organization have we started to create gaps, where we've cut corners, we've tolerated things, we've allowed for different systems and processes to get out of whack. Where have we missed it and focused on the wrong thing? You've got to first see it. You've got to keep your eyes. And if you're the leader of this team or organization, you have got to look for the gaps constantly, looking at the vision and looking at any gap. And as soon as you see those gaps, you have got to do the next step. You've got to state it. State it. What do I mean by state it? You've got to call it out for what it is. You've got to be honest about the gaps. You've got to deal with the gaps. If you ignore it, if you avoid it, hide from it, act like it's not there, think it's no big deal, that gap is going to get wider and wider over time. It just grows. It just grows and it gets bigger. So you've got to state it. You know Charles Kettering, the famous inventor, I love what he said. He said that a problem well stated is half solved. Wow, that's a powerful statement. A problem well stated, well defined, you really call it for what it is, it's already halfway solved. Most of the time, we're not stating what the problem is. We just say, we got problems here. People aren't working hard. They're not giving it their all. I mean, we got a problem. But you haven't defined what it is. State what it is. What is it that's causing them to get off a track? So you've got to do some discovery. You've got to find out and state it. You've got to talk about it, be open about it, address it with your team, with your organization. You've got to be willing to do that, because on that 3rd step is you've got to solve it. And you can't solve the gap and begin to minimize the gap so you can get back on track unless you have seen it, you have stated it, and you solve it. You've got to then begin to say, okay, what are we going to do to get back on course? Sometimes you can't get there overnight in one leap. For whatever reason, if you've allowed this to get too far and too off track, you've tolerated certain behavior and we're way off base. You've tolerated different things in your organization that have caused you to miss it. Or maybe you as a leader, maybe you got your eyes on shiny objects way over here, and all of a sudden now you're finding yourself getting off mission and your team is going crazy. You've got to begin to see it, state it clearly what it is, and have conversation. Bring the team together. Be open about it. Talk about where do we have gaps in our organizations, and then what can we do to take steps to solve it, to get back on track where we need to be, to get back to the vision so that we can accomplish everything that we've set out to do. Guys, listen, you are experiencing mission drift somewhere in your organization. It might be small, just really minimal right now, or it might be way bigger gap over here, but I promise you, you're experiencing this. Even if you've got a great organization, say, John, we're not experiencing that. I promise you, if you'll talk with the team and you'll start having conversations about it, you'll start to see where you've got gaps. If you don't have any gaps right now, which it's hard for me to believe, I can promise you this. Whatever the vision is that you're going after, whatever the next project is, whatever the next season is of what you're doing, I promise you that you will begin to drift if you don't be intentional about keeping your eyes on the vision and making sure that you see it, you state it, and you solve it, and you constantly keep everyone on track. Guys, if you'll do that, you're going to be more successful. You're going to be a great leader because you're going to help your team get focused. You're going to be a great organization because you're going to begin to get more done because you're staying on track and not getting distracted by other things. Guys, I hope this was helpful. Go to johnbarrettleadership.com to check out all my other resources. You can go and you can also get a guide, the Level Up Guide, where we've got group questions where you can talk about this with your team. Watch this video. Talk about where do we have mission drift areas in our organization, in our department, in our team. Where might we be doing that? And I promise you, you'll begin to uncover some great things. So go check out those resources and we'll help level you up. Reach out to us today so we can help take you and your team to the next level.